Well, Brandon, that's a wrap on John Cena's in-ring career. I think a lot of people had it pegged that he might go out on his shield tonight against Gunther, but I'm not sure how many people thought he was going to tap out, and particularly the way he tapped out. So, first reactions, what did you think?
Did I catch a smile on his face as he did it? I couldn't tell if it was the position that his face was in or if it was just like a sly creeping smile, but it looked to me like it was just sort of either he planned it that way or it just kind of happened naturally in the moment because of the emotion of the whole thing, but it seemed like there was a smile there as he tapped. I certainly I expected him to go out on his back. I mean that for so long has been tradition in pro wrestling, and I thought that it was the right move for Gunther to go over, but definitely surprising for him to do it the way that he did.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised too. And in fact, my prediction coming into tonight was I was full in on Gunther's going to win, and then
Yeah.
Miz is going to come down, and there's going to be some shenanigans, and that's how Cena's going to go out on a happy note because he's just going to beat up the Miz, and that's how we'll end this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when Miz came out earlier, my mind immediately shifted to thinking Cena was winning tonight.
Mm.
So I watched the entire match thinking that what was going to happen, and then just like what happens with Cena, you see him. Sometimes I wonder if he isn't aware of the cameras being on him as close as they are, because you see he's so notorious for just talking to his opponent so
Yeah,
blatantly.
yeah.
This struck me as, did this happen here? He's so nonchalantly tapped out, like you said, with a smile on his face. And it makes me wonder, what are people going to remember moving forward? Are they going to remember that Gunther won, or are they going to remember the odd circumstances at the end of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I right out of the gate, my initial reaction was, man, the crowd is taking this far harder than I expected. I mean, I thought that it was an audience that seemed to be in the know, but I don't know that they necessarily got the note that like this is typically how wrestlers go out is on their back. So they were upset and they took it out on Triple H, of all people, when he came out after the match. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. I mean, I think that long term you'll see Gunther be able to hang his hat on this, and I think that that's a good thing overall. But I think in the short term, you're right. There's going to be a lot of conversation about how it went down. The sort of the proclivities of like how exactly Cena lost the match. I mean, again, smiling in the tap out, and the fact that he tapped out at all. I mean, for that to have happened, I thought that it was likely going to be either a pinfall loss or possibly they go the pass out route. I mean, we've seen that ad nauseum with WWE and in big match situations where they don't want one guy to necessarily look bad. They'll go with that pass out finish, but this was just the clean tap. And I like the move. I mean, I think it is the right decision, but it is there is something to be said for that reaction, whether the smile was
Yeah.
planned or it just happened in the moment.
Yeah, I thought it was the perfect idea on what they should do. And whether it was executed perfectly, I'm not so sure, but I'm wondering how it'll stand up over the test of time. Seeing a lot of mixed views in our chat. See if I got anything. What do you think about? So, Pile Driver Pete says the crowd kind of ruined it at the end. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought them kind of turning on the finish felt a little odd.
Yeah,
I mean, like, because at that point it completely becomes, the veil of kayfabe is broken, and you're not booing the fact that John Cena lost his final match. From a competitive standpoint, you're booing the booking decision, and it was pretty clear that they're booing the booking decision because they booed Paul Levesque when he came to the ring.
right.
I disagree with that stance from the audience. I mean, I agree with Pete in the sense that I don't know if it necessarily ruined the moment for me, but I just thought that, you know, what does Cena gain by winning this match? I mean, you still, if he wins, you still get the closing segment. You still do all of that stuff. It just feels to me like if you're going to execute that closing segment the way that you're going to, why not also be able to get something else out of it, which in this case is a huge moment for Gunther. I mean, Gunther can celebrate this for weeks, months. I mean, for however long. This can be something he hangs his hat on for the rest of his career.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if they didn't expect that reaction at all from the crowd. If maybe they expected Gunther to win and the crowd to respect that and understand that, okay, the better man, the younger man won, and now we'll move on and we'll give Cena his proper send-off. Do you think they made up for it to some of the people that were disappointed with the, I don't know what you want to call that, afterbirth or whatever it was they did after it all?
Crowd seemed to get over it fairly quickly.
Right.
I mean, they went from booing Levesque when Cena hugged him to immediately being enamored by the video package and then everything that that followed, and Cena, you know, leaving his shoes in the ring and his wristbands and sweatbands and you know, walking up the ramp. The crowd was with him for that, so it seems like they got over it, but it's clear that to some extent and Mark Paschetti in the chat said this, the Triple H honeymoon is over. I think that's a good point. I think that there is some discontent with the booking and has been for quite some time. I don't think if this exact scenario plays out 2 years ago during the height of the Paul Levesque has taken over for Vince McMahon and things are great, I don't think you get this reaction if they do this 2 years ago. I think they've burned off some of the goodwill that they built over the course of the last couple of years.
Right. Do you think anyone's checked on Goldberg at this hour? Talk about a drastic difference in a send-off.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a Goldberg guy, so I'll.
Got one more comment here. So Azon White says, "What's next for Gunther now?"
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you would think that at some point he's going to get moved back into the world title picture. I mean, if you get a win over Cena, it kind of feels like that has to be on the radar at some point. I was kind of thinking through what could be in the cards for him come like WrestleMania season, where things seem pretty. Nothing seems like it's really shaken out at this point, and I'm not sure. Like I don't know that anything has come to me off the cuff. But Pile Driver Pete in the chat saying now he retires AJ. I mean, that would make sense at some point next year. If Gunther is going to be the guy that retires legends, I think that's the way to go. Adam Kidd too saying Brock. I mean, I would certainly like to see Gunther put an end to Brock.
Yeah,
I would vote in favor of that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think the writing is on the wall that Gunther is going to have a babyface turn here sooner or later, because he's wrestled all the baby faces now. He keeps winning clean, and those matches with Brock Lesnar and Braun Breaker, they're on the horizon, and it's right there. I think that's probably where we're going. And I know we'll get to the other topics here momentarily, but first I'm going to pause and introduce us in the show. This is a special PWTorch Wrestling Night in America post-show following the Saturday, December 13th episode of WWE Saturday Night's Main Event on Peacock. We are live on YouTube on the PWTorch YouTube channel, and also available afterwards as an audio-only podcast. Search PWTorch to subscribe to the podcast version. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and like the show. Welcome my co-host, Brandon LeClaire. It's great to be able to actually do a show with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I wanted to mention I saw Sadler mention in the chat earlier that I was retired. I'm not officially retired yet. I was pulled in for co-hosting duties for this show, and I do have one final slot in the host chair for Wrestling Night in America for AEW World's End. That is my official or unofficial final appearance because I am certainly able to tap in as co-host here every once in a while. But yeah, my actual retirement comes at the end of the month for World's End.
Are you going to go out on your shield? Are you going to take your shoes off? And will there be a video?
Yes, all of the above. I've sent some very flattering photos of myself as a young child to Wade, and I expect that he's hard at work on that video package for me now.
That's awesome. Be ready, Wade. So what did you think big picture from tonight? It was billed as being John Cena's last match and all the spectacle that goes along with that. But it was also pitched as a showcase of young talent. How'd they do?
I thought they did a commendable job. I thought that the crowd was a little soft on the undercard, and that's to be expected. I think that you're looking at obviously a one match show here. I mean, people weren't really showing up for anything other than Cena's final match. I think that if you take this thing in totality, you get a good showing for Obafemi, even though we'll talk about that match in and of itself and kind of the ramifications of the finish there. But you get a nice moment for Sol Ruca, you get a really good tag showing, and then you get Gunther, who, even though he is not a new talent per se, he is part of the next crop of main players in WWE, and he gets the biggest win of his career. I mean, that is a pretty successful night on the whole. If you're looking to showcase the future of the company, I thought everyone looked pretty darn good.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I don't know what it was when it started. I don't know why I had it in my mind that this would look like a typical Saturday night's main event, but it was clear the vibe was very different. We didn't get the throwback promo and the throwback song, and obviously the way everything was looked in the arena looked different. It looked more like the golden black spectacle that they wanted.
Yeah, the gold color scheme.
So it felt, and to me, I was debating through the beginning part of the show whether the spectacle of everything going with John Cena lifted up everything on this show, or if the seemingly uninspired matches that didn't have a lot at stake would bring it down. But I felt by the end of it, it just felt like a very strong and special show all the way around. And I'm wondering if that tracked for others.
Yeah, I definitely felt that way. I mean, it, as much as it was a one match show, you almost feel like if they had tried to go story heavy,
Yeah.
and threw a bunch of other, lukewarm built feuds on this card, on the undercard, it might have just come off worse. And it's actually one of the things, I mean, aside from doing a DQ finish in that opening match, I just didn't like interjecting the story with Drew McIntyre into this thing, because then later on in the night, you're going to put Drew in these video packages for Cena and show him as just a normal dude who respects John Cena. And then you have him attacking Cody earlier in the night when it was so, when they hammered the idea over the head over and over again that this was sort of non-canon, that this show just existed in a vacuum. I thought that they would and should have left the weekly stories out of it, and they did, with the exception of McIntyre. So I give them credit for everything outside of that. But I agree with you in the sense that I think that it was it felt consequential, even though these three undercard matches didn't really mean a whole lot, and they were all building up to a very, very particular moment that people were looking forward to. There was a certain jovial aspect to the whole experience, and it felt like people were along for the ride, even though they knew the matches weren't of particular consequence.
Yeah, and I know it felt to me, and I'm going to bring in Andy from Houston here in a second, who's been waiting. It felt to me like they knew that this was a legitimate night where people, I'm sorry, a night where legitimately new viewers might tune in that don't watch professional wrestling very often. They
Yes.
were curious about the John Cena, and they
Yeah.
wanted to show off some of their future talent, which seems very right to me. I'm going to bring Andy in now.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How are you? What'd you think?
Doing all right. It was a fun main event for sure. I was actually surprised that they went over the 2 hour mark. It seemed like when I was looking at the minute marker for Peacock, it just kept going, and I was thinking, yeah, Goldberg didn't get that privilege, and yet Cena didn't give a speech at the end. So,
Right.
nobody cut him off or any of that. So, but instead they had a nice video package, which I feel like was nice up until someone underhandedly slipped in a Vince appearance for like giving compliments to Cena, and it just seemed like I thought they had moved past Vince, so that just seemed very uncharacteristic of WWE. I'm not sure what the purpose behind that was, or if Cena requested it.
Brandon, what do you think?
It felt like an unnecessary nod to Cena. Cena, I don't know, Andy or Eric, if either of you had a chance to listen to any of the several podcasts that Cena joined in on this week, but he made some comments about Vince, and I thought for the first time he acknowledged wrongdoing, and sounded like a real person when he said that he can love a person and respect them and feel attached to what they've done for him personally, but also believe that they deserve accountability for things that they may have done. So I don't know if it is something that Cena would have requested. I don't know if it's something that Levesque and Nick Khan and company felt comfortable throwing in there because it's just kind of one remark and it's something very specific talking about this person who is leaving the company after so many years. We have to remember Vince McMahon is hugely influential and consequential in the career of John Cena. And obviously, Cena has a lot of feelings for Vince. I certainly wouldn't have done it. I don't think it was necessary, but I don't know whose call. I don't know whose call it was. I mean, I'm sure if you ask Cena, he'd say, that's way above my pay grade, because that's what he likes to say when anything is even remotely controversial.
Yeah, I find it highly unlikely that anyone would take any sort of credit or blame for that decision, and I'm sure we'll never hear anything about it again. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it looked like stock footage of Vince saying that, at least 10 years ago, because he definitely did not look in that clip like he does now. So it's almost like they just stitched together a lot of old footage of people
Yeah.
complimenting Cena over the years. So
I mean, yeah, Triple H had long hair in his clip. So that
I
was
saw
very old
saw
too.
that. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
There's a lot of old stuff in there, and
Mhm.
they would just blame whoever put the video package together.
So I definitely questioned their booking decision of having Obafemi face Cody if they were going to have a cop out finish like that. I think a lot of people kind of predicted that. I think Wade even said something along those lines where, yeah, that's why everybody thought, oh, Ricky Saints will do it, because Ricky can can take the pin for Cody, and it's not going to affect his standing or his path in NXT, whether it's towards regaining the NXT championship or moving up to the main roster or anything. But Oba is a special project that they want to keep strong for as long as possible. So it was nice to see him showcased, but I wasn't happy with the Drew run-in. I would rather he have taken a loss to show that he's not yet ready for the main roster, or hell, even pin Cody, so Cody knows that his time up on the top of the mountain is in jeopardy with the upcoming talent.
Having seen how it played out, it seems pretty clear to me now that their intent with this match was to never have a winner. They just wanted to get their WWE champion on TV, and they wanted to get their top up-and-coming talent from NXT on television at the same time. And this was a way to kill two birds with one stone. I'll turn it over to you in a second, Brandon, but I thought the match played out very, very well until the end. I thought Obafemi looked terrific. There was a few times he countered some moves for Cody that you don't see often happen. I know one time was with the Cody cutter, and another time was with the drop down, punch that Cody normally throws. Mm-hmm. And it made Obafemi look smart and strong and powerful, even when he destroyed Cody's ear. But I thought it was a very effective
looked nasty.
segment. Yeah, it was nasty. It makes me wonder if there's going to be any ripple effects from that moving forward.
He pulled a Travis Scott on him.
Oh, no. But at least he got to the ring quicker. I'm wondering, so Brandon, what do you think is going to happen to Obafemi moving forward?
I think that the finish being what it was tonight is probably an indication that he's gonna still be in NXT for a while. I mean, obviously, just winning the title back, there's a plan for him there. He strikes me as somebody who could very easily be one of those post WrestleMania Raw call-ups. Maybe he holds the title for a while, drops it around that general time frame. Whatever the Stand and Deliver, I think, is the NXT show around WrestleMania season. I could see him coming in shortly after WrestleMania. I think that Oba taking a pin tonight would have been fine and preferable to the direction that they went. I strongly dislike when they book a match between two guys and they feel like they can't possibly have one of them lose, so this is what we get instead. I would much prefer that you either pick a guy and commit to the idea that, hey, the loser's going to lose a little bit, but we're going to go out there and we're going to have a good match and we're going to move forward. Or if you are hell-bent on not doing something like that, just don't do the match at all. Find something else to do, because I just don't think that it works in the long term. And more often than not, it doesn't get heat on the person who is causing the interference or causing the disqualification. It gets heat on the promotion for booking that kind of non-finish. I think you get away with it a little bit more when it's an opening match like it was tonight on the card. But man, I cannot stand it when they do this kind of stuff on Raw or on SmackDown. When you get a 20-minute closing segment to a show and you invest 20 minutes of your time into a main event and you don't get a finish. I really wish that they would move away from this. They had started to in the early Levesque era, and it has crept back in as a booking crutch in the last year or so.
Yeah, and circling back to what you said in the beginning, I think I tend to agree with you, Brandon. I think because of how things played out today, I think we're not going to see Obafemi on the main roster until later this year. Yeah. There's still stuff to be done. I didn't think what the standoff he had with Drew wasn't enough for me to think that there's something progressing there. I don't think we're going to see, we might see a Royal Rumble appearance, but I personally don't think we're getting some sort of McIntyre Obafemi feud going into WrestleMania right now. I just don't see that. Andy, what else did you have from tonight's show?
Well, my last comment on that matchup, when you saw Oba standing toe to toe with Drew, it kind of demystified the aura of Oba, showing that he's not the biggest guy around, that he kind of stands toe to toe, or he was even like slightly shorter than Drew, so that size disparity kind of goes against the way he's being portrayed in NXT as being like the biggest guy around. I was also going to comment on the Sol Ruka Bailey match. I figured this was totally Bailey's wheelhouse to put over an up and coming talent, and Sol's arsenal just it's so unique, and it's almost Ricochet like, but more gymnastic and less aerial, if that's the right word to use. It was almost a perfect matchup, except for a few times where it seemed like they had to, synchronize their timing for certain special moves, where if you have to put the time into it like that, you shouldn't do it at all, because it strains credulity when two people are fighting in a match. That it's like I hear all the time on the post shows and the PLE shows, where people are looking to the side and just kneeling down waiting for a move to happen, and it's just so telegraphed that it takes you out of the moment. But I think overall, like, the Soul Snatcher was great, and then the way they psyched you out with the roll up pin getting reversed, that was a real classic move. So I thought that was worth talking about here.
Yeah, I know. I felt like there, aside from a couple miscues, and sometimes they're a little bit too much with the cartwheels and the flipping around that is kind of inconsequential. I thought for the most part, this was a great showing for Sol Roca, and it made her look like a very capable babyface. And I was thankful that the Soul Snatcher was executed so well that it didn't look completely orchestrated. Brandon, what'd you think?
I liked it. I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Bailey's a pro. I mean, you kind of expect this kind of performance from her on a card like this if she's given an opportunity. It's clear that if anybody's happened to see Bailey's posts on social media this week regarding her wrestling camp that she put together, that Cena spent 8 hours at, hanging with the girls and helping them train and everything. I think for her it was just like an unbelievable honor to work this show and be included on Cena's final night. And I think you just saw a woman who is really, really motivated to give back to the business and help future generations. I mean, Bailey to me seems like she could be. We've talked a couple of times on shows, and there's been frustration in the chat before about Bailey maybe even going elsewhere whenever her contract is up. But the more time passes, the more it kind of seems to me like she's the type that would make a lot of sense as a trainer down the road, and somebody that is heavily involved backstage to a significant degree, if that's something that she wants to do. And I think she has talked about having interest in that. I think tonight was a step kind of in that direction, seeing what the future might be for Bailey. Liked the match, and I thought Soul was really good in this role. It all worked for me.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Andy, for everything. I'm gonna bring Jason D in now.
Sure. Thanks again.
Thank you. Jason, how you doing?
Hey guys, good to speak to you.
Good to speak to
Can
you
you hear me?
too. Yep, can hear you.
All good. So I just finished watching the show. I'm just driving, but yeah, I apologise if you brought this up, but yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around whether I liked the decision they made at the end with Cena or I disliked it. And like a large part of me says that I like it, but then I guess to be honest, it did take away with the booze at the end and Triple H coming out. And I'm just wondering, from a meta point of view, as you touched on, Brandon, we've heard John Cena say there are decisions that are made that are beyond my pay grade.
Mm-hmm.
Will Cena come out saying, listen, it was my call to do what I did in the final match, to take heat off Triple H? Because I'm thinking this is going to catch on, that people weren't happy with John Cena tapping out. And I realise, he hasn't, first time in over 20 years he's tapped out, but that whole mantra of never giving up, people believed in that. Even if you don't like, even if John Cena's not your favourite wrestler or whatever, you've got criticism of him, it's a worthwhile mantra and slogan to have, never give up, right? And people believe that. You can hear the crowd saying, don't give up. And for him to give up, they feel like, well, that's not actually Cena giving up, that's the booking. And we all know that's the booking in every match. But sometimes there are things that are more believable than others. And people are going to think that Triple H told Cena to tap out, and we're not happy with that. And is Triple H going to attract heat with this on a, from a meta sense? Or is John Cena going to come out and sort of dissolve that type of heat? That's what I'm interested in seeing, because this is like a 50-50 type of decision for people. And, this is kind of like The Undertaker with his streak, right? It just seemed very deflated at the end. And yes, it's going to help Gunther, obviously, but I'm kind of 50-50 on it. So I wanted to know what you guys were thinking about it, and also, what the chat's saying too, because I could go either way with it. I just find it a very interesting decision.
So I want to push back on it just a little bit, Jason, and I might have agreed with you until I heard the reaction from the crowd tonight. It makes me think that they are not going to blame the booking, and they're just seeing it as Cena lost a match. They might be disappointed that he lost, but I didn't get the sense that maybe they're not as in the weeds in everything as we are. I don't get the sense that there's going to be a lot of blowback on this beyond super fans. And will they get away with it with everyone, because Cena's not going to be around anymore to remind them of what happened? Like, he's not going to be on Raw and SmackDown. He's not going to be on PLEs moving forward. They're just going to move on to the next thing. And this is all going to go away, possibly. Brandon, what do you think?
I'm just kind of wondering, like, I think you heard very clear discontent from the crowd directed clearly at Paul Levesque for the booking decision. When he came down to the ring, there were audible boos when the crowd saw him leading the charge or the full cavalcade of the roster down to the ring. So in the moment, there was clearly discontent with the booking decision over just the kayfabe storyline aspect of Cena tapping out. Jason, I guess what I wonder now is the discontent serious enough and sizable enough to carry over into other aspects of the show? Because they're not going to have access to Cena anymore. So there can't be a direct reaction to John Cena. And Paul Levesque appears on actual television, 4 times a year, maybe, give or take. So maybe they are more inclined to, throw some vitriol Paul Levesque's way, which for his other booking decisions at this point, maybe he deserves a bit less of a hero's welcome. But I don't think that this will carry over into other aspects of the show. If it does, then it becomes a problem.
I know. See, I don't have any. It's just I don't have an issue with Cena. Like, Cena, he gave up in this last match, right?
Mm-hmm.
But his whole mantra was to never give up. And then you kind of feel deflated by that, because you think, if he's going to lose, does he just pass out? He didn't tap out, or if he gains a pin. Obviously, Gunther gains a lot by this, and he can boast about it. But, I was talking to a mate of mine, and he's still annoyed about Jey Uso making Gunther tap. He feels like Gunther lost a lot by that. And I thought that Gunther never really addressed that as to why he tapped out, because a lot of people still chant that towards Gunther. And it seems out of character that Gunther...
Tonight included, yeah.
Yeah, but it just seems out of character that Gunther would tap to Jey Uso. I know they were trying to tell the story that Jey ultimately got his revenge on Gunther, but I thought Gunther never explained that, and the way he explained it was, it took a move of Gunther's to actually beat Gunther. Like Jey couldn't beat him using Jey moves. It had to take a move from Gunther to beat Gunther. I never thought that he sort of rounded that out as to why he tapped out, because it did seem out of character for Gunther to tap. And now I think some people still hold on to that a little bit. And it kind of diminishes, you think to yourself, why did they have Cena just get obliterated by Brock Lesnar? Because now it seems, I know you've got Lesnar and Gunther as two people that have defeated John Cena. Yeah, I get that.
Well,
but I don't know, does that, and they might build towards that, but does that take away from Gunther's victory that he's now the fourth person this year to defeat Cena? So you've had Dom, Cody, Lesnar, and Gunther. Look, they're 4 good picks. Is that one too many? What do you guys angle on this? Because also you got the fans discontent with the heel turn too. So you've got to take everything into context. I just think people wanted a happy ending with everything. It's widely acknowledged that the heel turn was unnecessary, or they didn't connect the dots the way they should have. They didn't tell the right story. Now you've got him tapping out, and I think a vast majority of people are believing that because Cena said these decisions are above my pay grade, he was sort of made to tap out from a booking decision, even though everything's a booking decision. It's kind of this whole meta thing, and I think things get a bit jumbled. So I'm waiting to see, as you say, Brandon, the fallout of this, because if this has left a bad taste in people's mouth, it could backfire.
Jason, I feel strongly that, and I felt this way for a while, that the best way for this to end is for Gunther to now beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I think that's what needs to happen because, Brock made it look easy. Gunther had to work for it tonight. And if you're going to get Gunther anywhere, he's got to beat Lesnar now, or it doesn't look as strong. I did wanted to point out what Mr. Derek Mitchell said in the chat, that Cena tapping with a smile will not be a lasting memory of Cena. People will remember the good times. Michael Jordan played with the Wizards, and no one talks about his Wizards years but the Bulls days. Now, Brandon, I want to turn it over to you first. Do you agree with this? And then I also kind of want to push it out big picture. Will people remember Cena's heel run, or will they kind of ignore that too and remember the other 20 years?
I think they'll remember the heel turn. I think a lot of people would like to forget a lot of the run. And I was really hoping that when Cena said that he would wax poetic about the last year on all these podcasts that he's gone on, I was hoping that he would be a little bit more open to discussing sort of the ins and outs. And instead what we got was just a longer form of the incredibly media trained, media savvy John Cena, where you never felt like you were getting a lot of truths, and a lot of it was just creative ways to punt on the question. So I wanted to bring up when Jason brought up the loss to Lesnar earlier in the year. Cena on one of his podcasts noted that he felt like all of it was part of the story, and he understood that in a vacuum the Brock Lesnar match was disappointing, but that without it, the match with AJ Styles the following month wouldn't have made a lot of sense. I completely disagree with this. I don't think
no sense.
Yeah,
no, I don't think that Cena. I think that Cena was just talking out of his backside. Like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. So it was disappointing, because I really thought that we were going to get this deep dive with Cena being, sort of candid about what he did and didn't like, and instead it was just like completely by the book. Just everything was laid out. It happened for a reason. I don't like to talk about regrets because I want to celebrate the stuff that we did get to do. So we never actually got a real look at John Cena, and that's to bring it back, Jason, to your original question. That's why it feels like, to me, we're never going to know what the truth is, whether it was Cena's call to tap out or it was Levesque's call to have Cena tap out. if Cena ever talks about this again, it's gonna be in company platitudes, and we're just not gonna get any real clarity on it.
But it is the right thing to do. You know, you're leaving, you tap out to,
Yeah.
you know, a hot
Yeah.
talent, or you lose to a hot talent. So you can understand that, right? But if, let's say Gunther did lose, right? And I thought the story would have been that Gunther would do everything he could to make Cena tap out and give out, and he would dominate 80% of the match, but Cena would somehow find a way. So Gunther didn't really lose anything, and the story would be that Gunther got so obsessed with trying to make this guy tap out, it ended up costing him. So again, because the story with Gunther has been that it's his mistakes that end up costing him. And I don't mind that. It's like the only person that can really beat him is himself. And that still makes him a formidable opponent. So, and he's got the 3 victories behind him leading up into this match with the tournament. So had he lost to Cena, it wouldn't have taken that much away from him. And I like the idea of Gunther coming out of this as a babyface to take on Brock, because I think the crowd do want to get behind Gunther because they realize how great he is. So, I mean, that could have been an angle they'd gone down. But look, either way, the decision was made. It just, you know, I've got to admit, like, as a fan, I got caught up in it. You know, I watched the final 30 minutes of the pre-show, and they showed the Make-A-Wish with all the kids, and you see how many children looked up to Cena, and poor young man passed away, and Cena never got to meet him, and they believed in the mantra of never giving up, you know, and that really got to me, you know. You know,
And
someone,
Jason,
I've got a brother with special needs, right? He's not in a life-threatening situation, but this meant a lot to people. Like, never give up, just keep going and going and going. So I feel like for him to give up finally, yes, he's giving back to the business, I guess, but for a lot of people, they take this stuff to heart in the moment, and it can be quite deflating. And it's like, did you really have to do that? Like, could you have put Gunther over in another way? I think a lot of people are going to be feeling that.
Just out of curiosity, because it's something that I thought about too. Do you think that the crowd reacts in a similar fashion? Do you think that, or you would react in a similar fashion if Gunther wins, but it's either by pinfall or pass out?
If Gunther wins by Cena passing out, well, he didn't give up, right? His body gave out, which you can understand because he's near the end, but his mind didn't. Like, he fought to the end. There's something to that. So Gunther still gets the victory, but like with Austin and Brett, right? Austin, he lost too much blood. The body gave out, but the soul and the spirit didn't give out. When Cena's tapping out, the man that never says never give up, that deflates a lot of people, because his whole, like, all his merchandise says never give up. It's like hustle, loyalty, respect, don't give up. I think that deflates a lot of people. I think people would take this more to heart for a lot. I think it's going to be very deflating for a lot of people, because people look to wrestling as some type of escape, and ultimately the good people are going to win. And it's not going to happen all the time. It's just an interesting decision. And I think all angles of it have to be discussed. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I'm just offering other opinions that I think other people have too.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Jason. I mean, it is tough when your whole brand is not giving up and then you give up. And even if it is your final, your swan song, would it have been better if he just passed out like Austin did? I think it's an interesting question. Before we move on, just want to put out there for everyone to let you know that PWTorch is on Patreon. You can search PWTorch VIP in Patreon or Spotify to get a free 7-day trial of ad-free versions of our free podcasts and our VIP exclusive shows. And then also, if you'd like to become a PWTorch VIP member, you can go to PWTorch /go VIP for full VIP membership info. Jason, what else were you thinking about the show? Because I know you have opinions.
Well, I liked, regarding Oba and Cody Rhodes, I think the most important thing, I didn't have a problem with the not finish, because I was expecting that, right? That didn't concern me. The question is did Obafemi looked like he belonged up against Cody Rhodes? And that is an emphatic yes. And that's all that matters. Was he believable? Yes. Did the crowd get behind him? Yes. So even though he's not, when you look at the height difference between Cody and Oba, it's not that much. Like, Oba's not that much taller, but he's thick and he has a presence to him, and he definitely has an aura to him, as people have said. So if the first time you're watching Obafemi and you're saying, my God, he could beat Cody, that's a tick, that's a plus, and that's all that matters. He held his own, and a benefit was that Cody bled. I mean, no, it was unintentional, but he came away, bleeding against this Obafemi, this rising star in NXT. He looked like he belonged. To me, that's all that matters. The finish didn't bother me because it's about getting over, and he was over with that crowd, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, Brandon, what'd you think?
Yeah, I still would have liked some sort of finish. I just don't like doing non-finishes. I mean, I just think that it sells the fans on a false premise. You're building the notion of this, 10 to 15 minute match that you just don't have a resolution to. I just would have rather them gone in a different direction if they didn't plan to pin one of these guys. With that being said, like as far as the comment about how Oba looked, Jason, I thought he looked like a star. I mean, I thought that he came off really well, especially the entrance. I mean, the entrance was good. Crowd reaction was pretty decent. He looked like he belonged in there with Cody. I thought it was a really nice showing for him.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I think if you're someone who's new to the product and you watch tonight, you thought Obafemi was a star. I think he shows it, and he shows that he's ready. I think worst case scenario would have been having him just defeat Cody clean tonight if it wasn't going to move forward with anything after this. If he just beat him tonight and they went nowhere with it, it was pointless. So I'm glad they didn't do that. And it kind of goes back to your point, Brandon. They probably shouldn't have done it at all if they didn't want to have a finish. But it's clear they just wanted to get Obafemi on screen. And for that, I think it worked.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying, Brandon, with the finishes. I mean, I guess we all have things in wrestling which kind of tick us off more than other things. We all have our own thresholds, right? For me, I'm not as down on non-finishes as most people because I kind of accept. I can kind of tell when it's going to happen. So my thing is, all right, I get the non-finish, but did the person look like they belong, and did they look believable? And where's it leading to here? So I get why people have an issue with it. It's not a major thing for me. I don't want it happening all the time, but I thought it was a good night for Oba, and I thought it was a good night for Sol too. I mean,
yes,
like it was a great comment the commentary made. I think Cole said it, like she's very tall, but the way she controls her body, she's obviously not uncoordinated. She knows what she's doing. And man, if people saw her for the first time or haven't seen her that often, I think they came away very impressed. She's got a great look, a great move set. And I thought it was a positive night for the up and coming stars. I mean, the only thing that seemed to be a downer, but I thought Slater did very well when AJ Styles slipped on the rope. And Barrett did a great job saying, geez, these youngsters put such a beating on AJ. He lost his composure, right? That was a great cover up for that. And I thought Slater going for the pin straight away, that showed great poise for a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Slip, go for the pin. Let's not dwell on it. And then they worked to finish. You could tell AJ was a little bit annoyed by it, but I never get down on wrestlers botching moves because to me, it's like, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. You're sweating, you're out there, cardio, all the rest of it. Things are about to go wrong. At the end of the day, if you're botching a move and you're kind of just hurting yourself or you're not really hurting yourself and you're not hurting someone else, I can accept that. It's when you're botching a move and when you're dropping someone on their neck, that's when I'm like, okay, that's a bad thing. But I don't expect everything to go smoothly because after all, they are simulating a fight, right? And what fights go smoothly? So for me, AJ slipping, it's AJ Styles. No one matters. They got straight onto it. And, Javon Evans, another guy. I watch NXT on and off, right? So I'm one of these people that don't get to see these guys that often, but he's got a presence to him too. I mean, his moves and his facial expressions too. Like, it's not just he's got great moves and he's bouncy. He sells well. He's got his facial expressions with his eyes. He's telling a story. So he's another guy that's got a big future ahead of him.
Was it glaringly obvious that this is Javon Evans being on the main roster is going to be a problem for Cody Rhodes because the OG cutter looks so much better than Cody's Cody cutter?
Well, you know what, mate? I don't know. He floats, like they say, he just floats. I mean, I don't like if you're Cody. No, I still think Cody's is impressive, but yeah, you're right. It does pale in comparison to Javon's, right? But Yeah, if I'm Cody, I don't have an issue with that. I mean, we know with wrestlers, they like to protect their moves, but a lot of wrestlers do choke slams. A lot of wrestlers do other moves. But yeah, what it does, it actually puts over Javon even more. That yeah, Cody's Cody cutter looks good too, but you see Javon's, it almost puts him over even more. That he can do it better than Cody.
Yeah. Any other takeaways tonight, Jason?
No, I just thought it's an interesting discussion about the Cena finish. That's all. I think there's pros to it. I think there's cons to it, and I like hearing all points of view. I like that in wrestling. Like everyone has a different point of view, and there's no like right or wrong. It's where they go from and what story they tell. But I think it's worth acknowledging that with any decision you make, I know this is an obvious statement, there are pros and cons, and you can acknowledge both of them without crapping on it. You know what I mean? And I think there are things to take away from it, and I think they're worth discussing. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I just enjoyed the discussion. That's all.
Absolutely. Do you think, last question, 6 months from now, do you think you'll be happy with how it ended tonight?
No, I got to be. No, I would have liked to have seen John Cena. There's something I don't like John Cena tapping out.
Yeah.
Now with the Undertaker's streak, I wasn't down on the Undertaker having his streak broken by Brock Lesnar, because I thought at the time it was a very wise business decision, because it was the very first pay-per-view that was on the network, and they needed that network to work, you know, for lack of a better term. And I thought if that was your very first pay-per-view and you're transforming the way you're doing pay-per-views, there's no better impact to make than to have The Undertaker lose his streak on the very first pay-per-view doing on the network, because you're sending the message to people that if The Undertaker is going to lose his streak, then anything can happen. So I thought that would have gained a lot of people's interest. And of all people to beat The Undertaker, you have Brock Lesnar defeat him. Now, they actually didn't utilize the equity with that, because then it ended up being Goldberg, the first person to defeat Brock Lesnar. So you're thinking, what were they doing there? But I never had a problem with Undertaker's streak being broken for that business decision, because they needed the network to work. And look what has happened now with the streaming and the amount of money they're getting. So I never had an issue with that. But John Cena tapping out when his mantra was to never give up, and that's what kids and Make-A-Wish people believed in, and that's how they lived their lives. That, I don't try and take this seriously, but that does still kind of rub me the wrong way. Like, I wouldn't have done that. There's something about that is a bit deflating, even though it is professional wrestling and it's all a performance. But there's something about that when you see how serious people take it, and for good reason, and how it helps their lives. There's something about that is a bit deflating. I have to admit that.
Well, thanks, Jason.
Good on you guys. All right, take it easy.
Take it easy.
I do think.
Okay, Brendan.
I was just going to say, I do think it is a really, it's a layered discussion, and the chat's been kind of going crazy, going back and forth about it too. Standard deviation, a regular here in the chat, really disliked the not only the decision for Cena to tap, but also Cena just losing in general. So there is a segment of people who thought Cena should have gone over. I can understand that argument. I mean, it is obviously tradition, time-honored tradition for the guy going out to go out on his back. I think you can make a case for the opposite. I also absolutely understand Jason's point regarding the tap out. It felt like a multi-layered poetic finish in a way that you might see like in a film, which is not something that you necessarily always get from pro wrestling. And sometimes it's not good. It's not what you want to do in pro wrestling, because it's hard to tell multifaceted, multi-layered stories. And sometimes you just want something that is able to be universally translated, especially with a company that, has a worldwide reach at this point. But there's something poetic to me about the idea of the guy who never gave up, who spent his entire career with the mantra of never giving up, of having it printed on every t-shirt that he ever sold for 20 years, in the end, facing an opponent that just forced him to give up. That's poetic in a way. And I think it works on a number of levels. But I also understand the counterpoint which is that in order to tell that story effectively, you probably need a stage that is a little more nuanced than pro wrestling.
Yep. Let's bring in Steve in Cleveland and see what he thinks. Steve, how are you doing?
Good evening, gentlemen. Here I am standing in my garage where it's about 12 degrees in Cleveland. I don't know what that. But I have a wife who's a light sleeper, so here I am. So, speaking of the cold, I might have tended to agree with the last comment. If you're going to have Cena go down, and frankly, gentlemen, I got no problems with him losing his last match to the guy who, in my opinion, is the best all-around professional wrestler from the slaps to the stick in the company. I maybe would rather seen him pass out versus tapping out. And was it me, or did it seem like he smiled right before he tapped?
Yeah.
Yeah, we covered that a little bit, but yeah, it just seemed like just an odd thing that only John Cena would do, is to tap out with a smile on his face, like, yep, here we go, I'm tapping. Enjoy it, everybody.
Yeah, right. Enjoy your last move. Being a Clevelander, we've had a guy here twice playing basketball who's played 21 years in the NBA or 23 years in the NBA, whatever the hell LeBron has. And at some point, Father Time, as they say, is undefeated. He's got more championship belts than anybody. The Father Time, and you're going to see
Eli Manning. Or like Eli Manning says, no one's perfect, including the 2007 Patriots.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm such a massive Obafemi mark. I've made that comment before when I've been on the air with some of your compatriots here. And I didn't really see anybody eating a pin tonight in that Cody Femi match. You knew somebody was going to stick their nose in. Now, if the first, shall we say, main roster feud that I'm going to see, although I don't see Femi coming up to the main roster full time until he drops that belt, and that could be sooner than later. If it's going to be McIntyre, that might not be a terrible start.
Yeah.
So you think that's where it's going? Are we going Cody McIntyre Hell in a Cell? Are we going Cody McIntyre Royal Rumble? What are we looking at here? Part 57?
The reality is that I'm not that excited to see Obafemi go against Cody Rhodes. I want to see him go against Jacob Fatu. I want to see him go against Braun Breaker. I want to see him go against the guy who tapped out Cena tonight. That's a match that I think I'd like to see maybe in April. Yeah. Do I think they're going to have him in WrestleMania in one of the top half of the matches? Who knows? I would say probably not. It's maybe a little too soon. But the guy's just, I'm not going to say he's like a Gunther, but Gunther was a guy with a foreign accent who was a big dude, and you knew he wasn't afraid to pick up the microphone, and neither is Femi. Now, I certainly would like to see Oba maybe drop some of the corny Ruler and the Conqueror or whatever, but that's his shtick, and wrestling's about shticks, as they say, and working the stick. But the guy's just, I'm telling you, he's headed to the top with a bullet. I can't see it going any other way, barring injury.
We discussed earlier, Eric, saying, Oba looks like a guy who could potentially be prime for that post WrestleMania Raw call up type deal. But I pose an alternative scenario, an angle that they really like, that they use frequently. Oba could be a surprise entry in the Rumble and be the one to eliminate McIntyre to set up a program for WrestleMania if you wanted to call him up for Mania season. And that's a really good upper mid-card feud for WrestleMania that gives McIntyre something big to do and gives Oba a big first match on a major card that sort of fits in on, you could see that being third or fourth from the top on Saturday or Sunday, something like that.
If they go that route, and it does seem very possible because, like you said, they've done this many times. Would you want the NXT title to still be with Obafemi at WrestleMania for that match?
I wouldn't personally, but
so have him drop it first.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think?
I mean, you could look at it both ways. I don't think he goes up to the roster full time until he drops that belt. If you're going to really present that as your third and maybe say 1A, 1B, 1C title, it might give it some additional gravitas to have him carry that into WrestleMania. I'd like to see him not lose it until he says, literally, okay, I've had enough of this company. Here's the belt. Goodbye. I don't want to see anybody take that strap off of him because I frankly don't know who in NXT I'd feel I'd want to give it to him at this point, unless you're going to Dragunov takes the next step up. But I just I would like to see him certainly be in a WrestleMania program. What I really want to see, frankly, gentlemen, is for maybe the Vision giving somebody a massive beatdown, a la maybe your champion, and then Oba comes running in and makes a save. The roof blows off the building. And then he turns to Cody and says, okay, we still have unfinished business left from John Cena's last evening.
Okay. I mean, it could happen. At this point, it feels like a lot of things are on the table. What other takeaways did you have from tonight? Was there anything else that stood out to you? I really liked, guys, seeing Sal Ruka get the pin. I mean, earlier it was mentioned that she's got a great skill set. That soul smash snatcher is a crazy finishing move. You got to be like Suni Lee athletic to be able to pull that move off. And does she have what it takes quite yet? Working on the microphone? No, I don't think so. And I think her most immediate future might be her and or Zarya turning heel sooner than later. I thought maybe we'd see that tonight. Maybe see Zarya come out with Sal Ruka to beat the crap out of Bailey, which we didn't see, which is fine. But she's got such a nice. The skill set is just great. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen anybody that athletic. Plus, she probably can throw on another 5-10 pounds of bulk and still not lose any athleticism and really put her up there. I'd love to see her in the ring with Rhea Ripley at some point. That might be quite some time, though. Yeah, I know. As for tonight, I fully expected there to be something with Zarya, at least some tension there. But I'm more and more convinced now that it's played out that they didn't want to take away from the showcase of Sal Ruka. They didn't want to involve any other storylines to do with that. They just wanted to show off how talented she was. And I felt like that was consistent with all the matches.
Yeah, they wanted to keep story light for sure. Right. With the exception of that Drew interference, which I think was less about trying to tell that story and more about just making sure nobody took a pin.
Yeah. Andrew's comment from Mr. Derek Mitchell again. What do people think about the narrative crowning John Cena as the GOAT, which he thinks is subjective, it clearly is, but his career places him definitively at the table with Sammartino, Hogan, Austin, and The Rock? What do you guys think?
Personally, I've never thought that Cena was the GOAT, not while we have a fellow named Ric Flair who still walks the planet. Rick, the Nature Boy is the GOAT, in my humble opinion. But I would definitely put Cena up with the rest of the gentlemen that you've mentioned. The numbers don't lie. And, when you've won, 17 titles in addition to other things, I mean, the guy's just been crazy. Plus, the one thing you also like in him, unlike some of the other champions that we've seen who we can smell what they're cooking, he hasn't just bailed out and comes here infrequently. I mean, he's been a company man, and that still means something in this business.
Yeah. Brandon?
It's an entirely subjective statement. Obviously, there's just no calling anyone the greatest of all time in any sport is typically going to be very subjective and a point of discussion. But in pro wrestling specifically, where there are so many factors that go into play in determining, what makes a guy among the greatest of all time, what makes a guy a top guy over the course of time, Cena is obviously in the conversation, and it does not at all seem outlandish for WWE to say it and to push it the way that they do. But I always think it's important to note that Cena's longevity is almost unmatched. There's no question there. A lot of the top guys that preceded John had very short runs at the top. I mean, we could talk about Steve Austin, for example, all day, who may have had an overall greater impact on the business as a whole, but did so in a very condensed timeline. I mean, we're talking Cena dwarfs Steve Austin in terms of time spent as a top guy in a wrestling promotion. It's also worth noting, though, that Cena is also always going to be attached to a significant downturn in business. And he is the face of a time when WWE hemorrhaged fans and chased viewers away like crazy. And it was not, it was in part because of terrible booking up and down the card, but a lot of it had to do with the way that Cena was presented and the length for which he was presented that way. So that is a detraction. I mean, any way you want to look at it, and they can retcon that any way they want to now. And the fans who hated him then have come around in full for the retirement tour. And that's great. But all of that stuff happened. And for a time there, it was rough. I don't think anybody wants to go back and relive 2010, early 2011 John Cena.
No. And, you know, we've talked about how it's subjective, but it tends to be generational too. If you didn't live through their peak of popularity, you're not going to consider them the GOAT. I don't consider Bruno Sammartino the GOAT because I didn't see any of it. It's hard for me. I didn't connect with that. So it's always going to be different. Even we talk about basketball, it's LeBron or Michael Jordan. It's usually which one that you lived through, or usually what you lived through in your most formative years too. So
well, I've lived through both of them, and I'm from Cleveland, and it's Jordan.
Yeah. And how much of
he
that
may be the GOAT of all GOATs,
right? And how much of that, if LeBron James had played when we were younger, and then Jordan was playing now, it might be flipped. Who knows? It's so difficult to predict. And well, I think one thing we can agree on is that John Cena was the last real champion, though. So clearly that lasted inexplicably all the way up until tonight, which seems like maybe the most tone deaf thing they've done all year to allow that to continue after his heel turn was over. I'm shocked that no one stepped in to change that or just delete it. I don't know. Blows
lot of baffling booking decisions with Cena's final year. And again, I really hoped that we were going to get just a completely candid John Cena to talk about it, because in hindsight, like, who cares? You know, like, come on, like, John knows that some of it sucked. I mean, come on, like, he has to know that some of it sucked. And I just, like, it's over now. I just wish that he'd be candid about it. But
he's just more machine. He's more machine than man now, it's hard.
Yep.
It's hard to get him to be honest in public. Who knows what he says behind closed doors?
I'll be honest. I am not by any stretch of the imagination a Joe Rogan fan, but I did check out some of Cena's appearance on his show, and that is the most natural I've ever heard Cena come off. And he was a little bit. It felt like he was being himself a little bit more in that interview, and I don't know if it was because he was letting his guard down because Rogan is not a fan, and that allowed Cena to sort of shape the conversation in a different way. But he felt more candid in that particular interview.
Yeah. One last thing I just wanted to mention, guys, is I like the way they showed a lot of the luminaries in the audience right before, and he went over and did some hugging and so forth. I found it a little, I don't know if emotional is the word, but the one person that really kind of hit me when they showed him was Kevin Owens, of all people.
Yeah.
Because Owens had this look on his face, like almost like he was facing his own mortality a little bit, given what he's been through with injuries, and you know, he's not that much older than Austin was. And you mentioned earlier that, you know, if you think about it, Austin's been retired pretty much since before Cena even started. And but just KO was just like, he was looking like he was it really hit him more than any of the other people on the side of that ring. I don't know if you guys got some of that similar vibe.
Did Did I hear it wrong, or did it seem like Kevin Owens got a gigantic reaction?
He
I
did.
didn't know if okay, so that
did.
wasn't just me, and I was trying to put the pieces together as to why. It also happened immediately after Elias got almost like, I don't know, he got like the palm to the face from Cena almost. Cena gave everyone else a hug, and he barely even shook his hand or whatever happened. Felt bad for him.
Yeah, I did think the Owens moment was notable, and I think you saw both KO and Sammy getting emotional. I think we maybe underestimate. They obviously have spoken about it several times, but I think we sometimes underestimate how big both Sammy and Kevin feel those matches with Cena define their early career in WWE. I think they attribute a lot to him, and I think a lot of the emotion with Kevin, like you said, Steve, could be him facing, questioning whether or not he's going to be able to do this much longer, if at all. But then also, Kevin always has just been a really emotional guy, and I think he's got a lot of respect for John, and it'll be interesting to see if and when Owens does come back. I would really like to see them just go all in on him riding out the rest of his career as a babyface. I as good of a heel as he has been, people just love the guy. Like there's just something about him that people love and want to get behind. It's really similar to Sammy.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, gentlemen, great show. Thanks for spending some time with me, and we'll keep calling in. I like the live feeds like this. It seems like these are happening a little bit more than they used to, so it's fun, and hope you get the more callers coming in pretty soon, and we can all keep talking about wrestling every night.
It's fun. Thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks for calling in. Question, Brandon. How did you think they did with balancing the celebrity involvement tonight, and the thank yous and the saluting in the ring and the huge amount of wrestlers that showed up tonight?
I was fine with it. I think it's a special enough occasion that you can get away with the self-aggrandizing and everything that they did. We'd seen a good majority of the video packages at this point, but they interspersed some new ones, some new faces in there with some special shout outs that I thought were nice. I liked seeing the wrestlers that were chosen to be there at ringside, and it felt like they, for the most part, they had their connections to John in really particular ways, except maybe Michelle McCool, which that was a little,
what else is new?
Yeah. But everybody else, I mean, Kurt Angle being there was a really, really nice, a really nice touch. Angle being there, and RVD as well. I mean, those are two really, really pivotal people in Cena's career. I'm bummed that, I totally understand why it didn't happen, why it couldn't happen. Maybe WWE asked, maybe they didn't, and I don't know what Tony Khan would say. But it would have been great for Adam Copeland to have been able to send a message or even be there. Edge is, I know that Cena did the politically correct thing when he said that CM Punk was his wrestling soulmate, and I don't disagree with that assessment, but I think he had two, and the other was Edge.
I couldn't agree more.
Yes.
Those matches they had when they traded wins in each other's hometowns,
Mhm.
and that TLC match they had in 2006, I think it was.
Yeah.
Just an incredible feud.
Mhm.
He was a notable but understandable absence.
Yeah.
Were you surprised there was no Randy Orton?
A little bit. Was
Me too.
Orton in one of the pre-recorded packages? Like, and it might have been an older clip too.
Right.
I don't know if it was recent, but I thought I saw him at some point. But yeah, definitely conspicuous by his absence. Yeah.
And no, I mean, who knows why, but no Rock in attendance, no Roman Reigns. Some of the bigger
both of them sent messages, but yeah,
right, they sent messages, yeah, but there seemed to be nothing from Orton.
Yeah,
and I know that
nothing current. Yeah,
right. And I know that thank you video had aired earlier today or earlier this week, so that
Yeah.
wasn't brand new, but and it was well done, so that was appreciated.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
in my head when I was looking in the crowd and trying to think of things I wanted to happen, I thought it would have been cool for Kurt Angle to get into the ring and kind of shake his hand as kind of like a, bookended, since he was the one that kind of started everything. But
yeah,
I don't know if they need Kurt Angle trying to walk on his knees up there, and I know that's a frustrating part for him. So
yeah.
Or if RVD had if RVD had a sign in his hand that said, "If Cena wins, we riot," that would have been great.
Yeah. I was glad. I was really glad that Kurt was invited to be part of it, though. I think as far as the celebrities at ringside go, it wasn't over the top. I mean, they've done worse. They've had more egregious examples before. I think that and WWE does this thing where they JC Scooby too saying Randy's in Saudi Arabia right now with Tiffany Stratton and some others doing promo, but I'm sure he still could have done a video like.
Well, it is Riyadh season after all.
Yeah. So the celebrity thing, like, there have been shows in the past where I thought they've gone really overboard, and one thing that WWE has done in recent memory is no celebrity is a bad celebrity to them. They just love the fact that they're part of the conversation. And I think it would benefit them if they were a little bit more selective about who they chose to show on screen. I'm not saying that you don't have to comp some B and C list celebrities tickets. If they want to be there and they're fans, cool. But I don't think you need to show them all. I think you can get away with just saying, yeah, we'll let you come. They don't seem to have the off switch with celebrities where they can be like, yeah, this one's worth showing because this gets us clout. But this guy, people don't need to see this guy. The ones where I'm going with this is the ones where I think that they do get some credit for is Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson. Yeah. I think having those two on screen when they can is a big deal. Huge athletes, big name players in the NBA, hugely popular sport. And the fact that they are diehard fans and show up time and time and time again, I think that is a net positive. Some of the other guys do without.
Yeah, I made a note of some of the and if they're thank yous, it was one thing. It's a big deal when they get the NFL quarterbacks and they're thanking people.
Right. Yeah.
Some of the actors
and if they were there, I'd show them.
Yeah, and I'd show them too, but they weren't too involved. Standard Deviation points out Stephanie was nauseating. OMG. What did you think about Stephanie the Body Ventura sitting there taking his place tonight?
Yeah, she's yeah, I don't know. People have a lot of nice things. Like, people in the company that talk about Stephanie have a lot of nice things to say about Stephanie. They really like her. But like a lot of people in and around this circle who have grown up in the business, I don't feel like I've ever seen them be a real person before. And Stephanie completely falls into that category. I don't feel like I have ever seen her be a person.
Yeah. As you were saying it, in my head, I was thinking Stephanie is not a real person. And it's the same thing I feel about Cena most of the time. And and about The Rock. They are so well crafted at this point that it doesn't seem like there's anything left in there. But like you said, all I ever hear is that everyone seems to adore her. Maybe they have to adore her too, but I don't think they're making it up either. I don't think they're lying to people when they say they like her. But yeah, tonight it was unnecessary.
I've even watched like a couple of episodes of her podcast just thinking like I checked out the AJ Lee one, for example, just to think like, okay, if she is just sitting down in a room and having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, I get that there's a camera on and you're on to some extent. But usually if it gets to be conversational back and forth, you can kind of drop some of that facade. She never does. It's
never.
No,
Never.
it's that is like, if a camera is on, she is not real.
Yeah, and it was such, I listened to the same podcast with AJ Lee, and it was so jarring hearing AJ tell her story and Stephanie having to sit there and be this corporate robot and talk back to her and try. And it's like Stephanie tries so hard to connect with them, and it just comes across as so forced. But as Eric May 3944 says in the chat, Stephanie gave John his break after hearing him rap. So there is that. Is she certainly belonged in the audience tonight?
Oh,
but I don't think we have to enjoy listening to her talk.
No, she also likes to point out a lot that she's not employed by the company.
Right. Yeah. Not at all.
She doesn't work there.
I'm sure she's getting paid nothing.
No, nothing. She doesn't work there. She's just a fan.
What else did we had to have missed something on this show tonight?
We didn't talk much about the tag match. I mean, just a couple of things. I thought that the point Jason made about Slater being in place when AJ slipped on the phenomenal forearm was great. That was that. I'm with him that I don't mind botches in wrestling as long as they don't turn into an injury, because I think when you're simulating a fight, stuff like that is going to happen. I mean, I'm a big football fan. Not every play in football is perfect. If what you're asking wrestlers to do is essentially asking a quarterback to never throw an incomplete pass, more or less. And that just it's not going to happen. So I'm fine with things like that occurring. But what takes me out of the moment is not the botch. It's typically the follow-up to the botch, when they scramble to get back into position to try the same spot over again. And this was markedly different. I mean, he went in for a pin instead of reloading the spot. And they got through the rest of the match, and it came off great.
You can, to your point, Brandon, you can look back to last night on SmackDown when Zelina Vega, she botched the code red. And then once she got back on her feet, immediately went for it again and tipped me off that, okay, that's what she was trying for. I messed it up. And immediately tried to hit it. And it showed a lot. It showed me a lot about Slater, that he had the presence of mind to cover him, like you said. It's nice. And to me, nothing takes me out of watching wrestling more than when it starts to feel choreographed. You know, I like it when it looks gritty and it looks real, and the botches can help with that, because that would happen in a real fight. But I find that when there's too much, it's clearly they're working together, I slowly start to lose interest. It doesn't happen immediately, but it slowly fades away. And the next thing you know, I'm multitasking. The next thing you know, I'm not invested in the match, and then I stop caring. And that's not what we want.
Right. Yeah, it's a great point. And I think it's a great sign if you're 21 years old and you already have the wherewithal to be doing that kind of thing.
It sure put it in perspective that he and Evans are 21 years old, and when they weren't even born when Cena started his career.
I had to take a moment.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, like it's Cena. So John Cena is the first top guy, face of the company, whatever you want to call it, that I have been a fan from beginning to end of the career. So, I was already well into my fandom when Cena showed up, and now when he retires. But even that, so I wasn't around for the beginning of Stone Cold. I mean, I joined when it was in progress. That made me feel old, real old.
I felt the same way, being a fully grown, full-fledged adult when Cena started, and I'm watching wrestling, and now he's come full circle and he's done. One thing we also didn't talk about is, how did you feel about how everything played out with the Miz, R-Truth, Joe Hendry segment?
It was fine. I mean, it filled some time. I don't know. I don't know if you noticed, but it seemed like so obviously the idea for exhibition matches, Cena has taken credit for. I assume that's legitimate. I have no reason to think that it wouldn't be, but if you notice, it seemed like everyone who competed on this show on the veteran side were known friends of Cena's. So you have and Cody Rhodes. I don't know how close John and Cody are, but obviously John is probably going to be deferential to having the current top guy somewhere on that card. And then you have Bailey, obviously has a great relationship with Cena. AJ Styles, great relationship with John Cena. So it seemed like he gave preference to talent that he had established relationships with. And if that's the case, then it certainly makes a lot of sense that The Miz and R-Truth would get a spot on the show to do something.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad it didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen, which would have been after the match. But does Joe Hendry, should he carry this storyline with him? Because what we just learned is that he should have had the last match, or he should have had that tournament match anyway. I'm sorry.
He is he's something. Like they've got something there. It's a lot. It feels like the early days of LA Knight, when LA Knight was kind of catching fire, but maybe to a larger degree. Like maybe the ceiling there is higher. I don't know. Man, I don't know. I don't know if Hendry is going to. I don't know if Hendry's going to live up to the standard in the ring. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. And obviously the standard is lower in WWE than it is elsewhere. You know, Cody Rhodes isn't the he's not a 5-star wrestler, but like he can get it done. LA Knight, same way. You know, when I see an LA Knight match headlining Raw, am I super excited about it? No, but I like the character. So Hendry feels like he could be that kind of type.
Yeah, I can see that too. And with Knight, he has gotten better. But he's never going to be AJ Styles in the ring. Speaking of, was LA Knight there tonight?
I don't know.
Maybe the chat can help us out,
didn't
'cause
notice.
I don't remember seeing him.
Yeah, I mean, he could have been in that group that came to the ring at the end. I'm not sure. I wasn't taking like close stock of everybody that was coming out, because I was kind of paying attention to. I wasn't sure what they were doing with Cody and Punk. The handoff of the titles felt a little weird.
Right. Well, I want to circle back to that, but maybe I want to give them credit, and maybe Knight was selling the effects of the beatdown he just received on Raw. So I don't know if I trust him enough to think that far ahead.
That has to be. Yeah, Jason D mentioning it as well. They had to. That had to be the case. They must have fully written him off for a bit.
Right. What? So you just mentioned it. What did you think about the presentation of the championships?
I thought it was weird. I didn't think it made a ton of sense. He's a 17-time champion. I mean, it was fine. It was innocuous. Like it didn't hurt anything. I just thought it was a little odd.
So I thought it was kind of insulting. It's like,
I mean, yeah, you could,
lost. Like,
you're
just gonna give him these token belts. Like he's I don't know. It just seemed a little strange to me. Does someone in the chat want to defend that? Did they think it was great? Did anyone love it?
What if they brought out the spinner belt instead?
Oh boy. It kind of shocks me they didn't. I will say I thought the ramp and the entrance looked amazing. I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, it looked great.
Full disclosure, I live in Maryland, and I initially wanted to go to that show. I thought it would be cool to go to, but then when I looked at the prices and what things have become, it just was not worth me, mortgaging my house.
I'm from Maine. If I want to go to a WWE show these days, because they don't run house shows anymore, and that's all we got in Maine. So if I want to go these days, it's Boston. It's the Boston market for me. And as everyone was, I think, pretty sure that the final night for Cena was going to be in Boston. I mean, that just makes sense. And when they announced DC, it was quite disappointing. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll go to his final Raw. And then, like you, I looked at the prices and said, I'm not paying that to go to Raw. I don't care if it is Cena's final appearance in Boston. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and this is probably not the time to be discussing this in depth, but it sure seems like the business decisions they're making are running a real risk of costing them the next generation of fans, because if families can't afford to go to the show and you don't have kids at the shows, that's going to be a problem in 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if this bubble bursts. Right now, they are able to charge whatever they want, and they're filling arenas.
Yeah.
I don't know if that lasts forever. I don't know if there is a. I guess the question is have they chased away the diehards who are still watching the show but are no longer willing to pay the prices, and so therefore the people that you get in the arena are the ultra wealthy, or the people who, they decide that they can swing this once a year, for example. They can make it out to one show. I'm not sure. I mean, like, I don't opine for or wish for anything much from the Vince era. But one thing that I did appreciate about Vince McMahon's philosophy regarding pro wrestling is that there should be affordable tickets to every show. I mean, when even just let's say like the last time WWE came through Maine would have been 2 holiday seasons ago. They did their last house show here 2 holiday seasons ago, and even though they raised the prices of ringside and the lower bowl dramatically, there were still $20 tickets available. And those $20 tickets sold out weeks and weeks and weeks in advance of the show. You're not getting into these shows for anything close to $20. No.
And to put it into context for anyone who wasn't on Ticketmaster, like we might have checked out, Derek Mitchell said again, I live in DC and my nephew went to the show with his best friend and the tickets were over $1,100. Nosebleed seats were $200. It's hard to justify that for people that aren't rich.
And this is just, I'm not even talking about years and years ago, but to put it into perspective, I went to Survivor Series 2022, which is at the Garden in Boston. I paid $250 for a front row seat in the lower bowl, one section off from hard cam.
Yeah.
So imagine one section to the left of the ring, which for Survivor Series is actually centered with one of the rings because there's 2. So one section away from center, front row, right off the floor. And that was $250. For Cena's last Raw in Boston, the day of the show, that same seat in that same section was $900.
I mean, that's...
So we're talking, this was a pay-per-view versus a Raw.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's nuts. Well, I guess we can just hope, Cena's not going to be around anymore to help jack up prices, but just his presence on the show.
It hasn't really seemed to matter. I mean, they're charging what they think they can charge. I saw a couple of remarks saying that combo tickets for WrestleMania this year were a tad lower than last year. And my guess is that has nothing to do with them doing it out of the kindness of their hearts, but rather just the fact that they anticipate less demand because it's 2 years in a row in Vegas. So I mean, that's good. That's good for people attending, I guess. But like, it doesn't, it doesn't help the other 100-something shows in the year.
When WrestleMania is in Saudi Arabia in 2 years or whatever it's going to be, we'll see how much it costs in reals or whatever it is. It's frustrating. Well, looks like the chat's dying down. We're talking about Ultimate Warrior and Fritz von Erich. So it seems like it's a good time to start wrapping things up. Big picture, though, you think successful evening, proper send-off for John?
Yeah, I mean, this is a different show. It had a different feel to it. It felt non-canon for the most part, and that's fine. I mean, if you're gonna tell me it's non-canon going in, then I'm okay with it. I'd much rather take a exhibition style night like this with a fun send off for Cena than say like to harken back to Survivor Series, like Red versus Blue Survivor Series. Like I'll take this format. I'll take this format all day.
We could do a whole deep dive on red versus blue Survivor Series.
Oh, it was, I was poised. I was given the option to choose. I think it was Greg that made me pick between red versus blue, or it was raw, because I basically I was arguing that I thought that the War Games concept had run its course as a yearly staple, at least for the time being.
Right.
And I was thrown at what was thrown at me was basically, do you take War Games forever, or do you go back to red versus blue Survivor Series? And I thought the option being given to me was, do you go back to standard 5-on-5, which was the clear choice.
That's
and
easy
the obvious
answer, yeah.
winner. But no, if you're giving me the red versus blue or War Games, like, I will stick with War Games.
Yeah, that's. I'm.
It's not a
100%
good.
in
It's
agreement
not
with you.
Yeah.
And like this last couple weekends, my favorite match was the Survivor Series style match that they had on SmackDown. I thought that was far better than anything I watched on Survivor Series. So I wish they would get back to it. I don't know why they do the things they do. But I guess we'll start wrapping things up. I know Wade was super cool to me, and he said I could mention a personal project that I've been working on. So I'm just going to take 20 seconds. I'm launching a Kickstarter on January 15th for a comic series that I created and wrote called Bad Will. Think it's about a thrift store that sells items from failed relationships. So think Goodwill, but the opposite. Tonally, it's kind of like The Office meets Ted Lasso. And since I'm a lifelong wrestling fan, it's very character driven. If anyone's curious, feel free to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram. Just search my name. That's it. But beyond that, thank you, Brandon. Thanks to the chat room and everyone who came on today. We appreciate the support. I hope you enjoyed the show, and have a great night, everyone. See ya.